Oh boy, I wonder how the comment section is going to be on this one. Let's talk today about the NHL fantasy numbers, as well as the NHL's own list that they made for the top 50 players in the entire league. Now, I had actually planned to make a video about this same topic a month ago when the NHL fantasy list came out and they started making posts about who they value more on the fantasy projections, etc., etc. So if you have a fantasy hockey league or a hockey draft, these are the guys, according to the NHL, that you should be drafting ahead of others. And a month ago, we had ourselves this individual Instagram post of the 37th to 41st players in the NHL's fantasy rankings. It's their faces in new places kind of list, and Johnny Gaudreau for the Blue Jackets happens to be the cover boy. He's the 39th player here on the ranking, and I mean, it says that he had 115 points last season, so the implication is, hey, if you take this guy in your fantasy draft, he'll probably go out there and score a boatload of points because he's playing on the Blue Jackets and he just happens to be really talented. But I wanted to make a video about this because of the guys that are surrounding Gaudreau in this range of the fantasy player rankings. You can see that number 37 of the Florida Panthers is defenseman Aaron Ekblad. He's a pretty good guy, so I'm definitely not surprised to see him being this high up on the list. Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings is number 38th overall. Gaudreau himself is 39th, so it actually does say here that Moritz Seider is a more valuable fantasy projection player than Johnny Gaudreau is, which kind of blows my mind in a way, but then if you take a look at body checks, if you want to go with ice time, shot blocks maybe, I would understand if you said that Seider was more valuable than Gaudreau in that aspect. But after Johnny Gaudreau, it's number 40th overall, Andrei Svechnikov of the Carolina Hurricanes, and then you have yourselves 41st on the NHL's fantasy rankings, Jack Hughes. This was the first post that made me want to talk about this entire topic over here, because when it comes to Moritz Seider and Jack Hughes, it's really interesting to me to see how highly anticipated Seider's sophomore season in the NHL is appearing to be. It's not even just this post by itself either. This post was published back on August 16th, and if you fast forward a month later to the post that the NHL Instagram made 2 days ago, you have yourselves this entire Seider and Jack Hughes thing revisited, because the NHL made a post about their top 50 players in the league, and you kind of see how they've been doing these. They post a few graphics of the same list every day, and they do different parts of the list each time they post. This was the first post on the series of top 50 players, so this image has players number 41 to 50, and as you can see, the top 50 players in the NHL start out with number 41, Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. 42 is John Carlson. 43 is Chris Kreider, 44 is DeBrincat, 45 is Miro Heiskanen, Landeskog follows up from the Avalanche at 46, 47 it's Philip Forsberg from the Predators. You then have another back-to-back Nashville Predator, it's UC Saros at 48, 49th belongs to Moritz Seider of the Red Wings, and then 50th overall, it is Jack Hughes once again. Now, this conversation got some people up in arms. I did see quite a few comments on the Instagram page saying, hey, why is Jack Eichel there? Like, he's not that good, is he? Is he better than Carlson and DeBrincat? And I mean, the ranking of having UC Saros here, you could debate he should be a little bit higher. But hey, let's talk about the number 49 and that number 50, because is Moritz Seider already a better NHL player than Jack Hughes is? Because when it comes to fantasy projection, that's one thing. When it comes to just being a better guy, on the other hand, that's another thing. Jack Hughes is a player that I think has really grown into his own this past year, and with the projection that he has for 2022-2023 on the contract that he has as well, this could be one of the better players in the entire league by the time he hits his stride and really breaks into his prime, especially right now since he's only 21 years old and he's already an over point per game player. Meanwhile, Moritz Seider is a guy that absolutely showcased the best possible kind of season out of himself in the Red Wings system last year. Now, he had 50 points in 82 games played. He played the entire season. He was an absolute tank, a brick wall, and a force to be reckoned with all at once. And for everything that Seider was able to do last season, it's really difficult for me to go out there and try to project where he goes from here, because last season he was already so good that it's difficult for me to just immediately come to the conclusion that, okay, Seider next year will be, in only his second season, one of the best players, period. Now, I'm not going to go out there and disagree with the idea that he should be on this list. I like it a lot that he was included on here. It's a pretty nice sentiment for the Wings. It's just, to me, it kind of makes an interesting conversation when you ask, hey, is Seider a better player for fantasy, as well as in general, than Jack Hughes right now? Because if I had to make a team from scratch, I'm starting either a fantasy team or I'm just an NHL GM, just appointed brand new in the position, and I was given a choice, I'm honestly not too sure who I would take. Seider could be one of the best defensemen in the entire world when he hits his prime, just an all-round versatile player, his own zone, the offensive zone, penalty kill, power play, all situations, all roles. Seider can excel. It's just, if I were to try to go based off of fantasy points, for example, I would like to think that Jack Hughes in 2022, 2023, just in the short term, might be able to go out there and score, I don't know, 70, 80 points? I mean, he scored at a 94-point pace last season, and that was cut short due to injury. So if Jack Hughes is well-rested, he's healthy, he's a little bit older, and he hones those skills a tad more than before, I think there definitely is a potential that sees him getting maybe even 95 points next season. If you want to be even more optimistic, maybe 100, but that's just me being optimistic about a Hughes guy. Especially when you go over to, like, fantasy point projection, it really depends on what kind of draft that you have, right? Because I know some leagues have more weighted sort of value on goals and assists, and points in total are, like, the main thing that they track, but there are some leagues out there where a guy like Matthew Tkachuk is one of the most valuable, period, because not only does he score, but he also hits, he gets penalty minutes, and, I mean, playing for a team like Calgary last year, he was an absolute beast in the plus-minus department, so it really depends on the intangibles. Now, if your league is going out there and valuing defenseman points a little bit higher than forward points, then I can understand if Moritz Seider is a little bit higher ranked than Jack Hughes would be if you're saying, okay, fantasy points only, because, I mean, Seider had 50 points last season. He could really easily get 55 next year, maybe even 60 or 65 if you want to push it. Guys like Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar and Heiskanen and Dahlin, these guys are all sort of in that territory of consistently being able to get 50 to 60 points per season, and I think Seider could be in that same mold as well. Now, I don't think that he's the same sort of versatile, agile scorer like an Adam Fox or a Quinn Hughes or a Makar is, but I wouldn't be surprised if he produced like one. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's such a different type of D-man who can just do everything that he might not be an absolute wizard with his feet like Quinn Hughes, or he might not be an absolute powerhouse like Cale Makar when he picks the puck up and he starts skating, but Seider can just do everything that you need a defenseman to be capable of doing, and I think if your fantasy league is going to go out there and put emphasis on those other parts of the game, then I think Seider might actually have himself an edge over Jack Hughes. But it all really depends, right? Depending on your league, depending on where you are in terms of, you know, what other players you have on your fantasy draft, etc. So you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the idea of taking Moritz Seider over Jack Hughes. I'm really interested in seeing where this comment section goes, to be honest, because I know the Red Wings fan base loves Moritz Seider. I do as well. And I know the Devils fan base loves Jack Hughes too. So I'm interested in seeing if there's any compromise between the Devils fans that say, oh yeah, Seider is really good. I would understand why you would take him over Jack. Or if there are any Red Wings fans saying, yeah, no, Seider's really good, but he's only played 1 year. Jack Hughes has had a few years of growing pains already. Next year, he should be able to break out and just zoom by every expectation that everybody had about him. So I'm really interested in seeing where the comment section goes between this Jack Hughes-Moritz Seider dynamic, especially since it was already mentioned twice on the NHL social media, once on their fantasy projection, and secondly on their top 50 players in the NHL list, period. Also, regarding the top 50 players list, what are your thoughts on Jack Eichel being named above everybody here? I know it's kind of a joke, a meme-ish kind of question, but I definitely wanted to see what people thought about Jack Eichel being on this list in the way that he was. But talk in the comments either way, all your thoughts. Jack Hughes, Moritz Seider, Red Wings, Devils, where would you rank these players and how good do you think they are comparative to each other? I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.